Hey guys, thank you so much for joining our Q1 2020 feature Roundup webinar. First of all, we hope that you and your family are indoors and safe. I am Karthik and I'm from the Freshservice product marketing team. We at Freshworks have been working remote for the past couple of weeks and we've had a lot of learning during this time. To be honest, it was really challenging for a lot of us, especially for me who was working remote for the first time. So I bet a lot of you might have had the same experience. So it took me a while to figure out how to stay on top of things and keep things in control. So if you are new to this and if you're trying to figure it out, hang in there. You will get a grip of it in a couple of weeks. But in spite of all this, we are continuing to build necessary features and enhancements that could really help IT teams provide a better support for their employees who are now working remote. And in today's webinar, we are going to focus on some of the features which we think are really helpful for IT teams to support their employees. And most of it is the features that we have shipped during the first quarter of 2020. So before we jump into the webinar, I would like to do a quick sound check. So I'm going to ask you a question and you should answer the question in just one word. You need to type the answers in the chat box. This will tell us that you can hear us loud and clear. So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of work from home? Just anything that comes to your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind. Just type it out in the chat box so that you tell us that we are able to hear you loud and clear. Sean said shorts, internet connection, VPN, pets, chilled out environment, sunny, Zoom. Yeah, of course. Dogs. Somebody says they love work from home. Somebody says slow internet. I can relate to that. Loud kids. Yeah, of course. Awesome, awesome. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the answers. I was able to relate to some of it, especially the slow internet connection. All right. So now we'll get started with the webinar. We are four of us, you know, me, Karthik, and I have Mary, Niharika, and Ram with us. And we'll start with the features and enhancements, which will be presented by Mary and Niharika. And at the end, Ram will talk about the resources section. This is something special that we have built, especially to help IT teams during these times. And the resources section has a webinar which is very useful for IT teams to know about business continuity. And we have also got a lot of good resources to provide better remote support for your employees. So without taking much time, I'll hand it over to Mary. Stay in there and get a grasp of all the new features we have launched. Over to you, Mary.
Thanks, Karthik. Before we get started, I really want to thank you guys for joining us today. And apart from that, I hope you guys are staying home and staying safe. First, let's take a quick look at the list of features and enhancements that were rolled out in Q1. Hello, everyone. I am Mary from the Freshservice product marketing team. I'm a product marketer, and I'll be walking you guys to the cab huddle and asset automations. So let's get started. Cab Huddle is definitely the most exciting functionality that we have released this quarter, and something that will be helpful for most change managers out there. As we know, change managers and agents in an organization are tasked to ensure the changes are approved and deployed on a weekly and almost like day-to-day basis. Let's go through some of the issues they run into today while setting up cab meetings. To start off, change managers today juggle between multiple tools, from making the list of changes to be discussed in a spreadsheet, to scheduling the meeting in either Google or Outlook calendars, where the agenda of the meeting and the list of changes are copied from Freshservice and then later on pasted into the meeting invite. This may lead into a lot of errors and too much back and forth for every cab meeting scheduled. Apart from that, they also need to manually search for the change and update the approval status before pushing it for deployment. To avoid this hassle, we decided to create an end-to-end solution. From planning the agenda to approving changes and then sending out automated MOM of the meeting summary, we wanted you to have it all right within Freshservice. Now, let me show you how this works. Once you log into your Freshservice account, you can click the Changes tab on the left-hand side here, and then click on the View Change Calendar right here, and then click on Schedule to create a CAB meeting right here. Let me take an example of an infrastructure CAB review meeting. You can also add the description of the CAB meeting if you wish to, and then later on add the meeting attendees. In this case, I'm adding in my colleague, and you can set up the duration as to when you want the CAB meeting to happen. You can choose to have a recurring CAB meeting by checking the box right here and choose how often you would want this CAB meeting to happen. In my case, I would uncheck this box, but if you have this box checked, you can create the CAB meeting first before you add the changes. Once I uncheck the box, I can add the changes right away. Now, before that, you can check the box right here, that is Add to Google Calendar, for your requesters to see the changes added to your CAB meeting and the CAB meeting invite itself in their Google Calendar. Now, I'll be adding in the changes. Now, to ensure that the change manager doesn't have to go through the hassle of adding the changes from the huge list of changes in their system, you can just add in the conditions. In this case, I'm adding in the status, and then I'm adding in the change type, and then filtering out the changes based on these conditions. Next, you can choose the changes that you would like to add to this CAB meeting, and then click Add. Next, we'll go on to the meeting summary. Here, you'll see an already existing default template where you could also go and add in changes that you want or leave it as it is. Next, let me just create the CAB meeting where the meeting invite is successfully sent to everyone. Once the meeting invite is sent, the change attendees, change managers and agents will see their CAB review meeting in their calendars. Now, the change managers and agents can directly go to the meeting and add in the comments to the respective changes. It can be any sort of suggestions or things that they think is important for a particular change. Once that's done, the change manager at the day of the CAB meeting can click on Run Meeting to go through the list of changes. Now, you'll see like a presentation mode of all the changes here. The attendees of the meeting can also add in their comments while the meeting is going on by clicking here and adding in their comments. And the best part of this is that the attendees can go right away and click on Approve or Reject of the change while they're going through the change in the meeting. In this case, I'm clicking on Approve. You can add in any remarks if you wish to, and then click Approve. And once that's done, they can click on End Meeting once the entire list of changes are discussed in the meeting. Once you click on End Meeting, a meeting MOM, that is the minutes of the meeting, is been sent to all the meeting attendees with all the details such as the number of changes, the comments, and everything else. If you wish, you could also add in more details to the default template that exists. Now I'm just clicking on Send, and you'll have the changes being sent to all the attendees. And that's how easy it was to set up a CAB meeting within Freshservice. Now, I'll be moving on to yet another crucial feature in Freshservice. As a part of our initiatives to constantly improve the workflow automator, we decided to bring in an additional functionality, which is the asset automations. Before that, let me quickly run you through some of the challenges we have come across. Today, most agents lose their time and energy with the mundane process of just manually managing the inventory. This can also include your day-to-day onboarding and offboarding of assets, which normally requires agents to perform a tremendous amount of bulk actions. And in the process of this, there's a lack of communication to asset owners, which in turn leads to a lot of confusions and mishaps during the audit. In order to avoid this, we decided to automate most of your repetitive tasks that you find within the asset lifecycle. Now, let me show you a quick example as to how you can set up this workflow in your Freshservice account. In your admin panel of your Freshservice account, click the Workflow Automator under the Help Desk Productivity. Next, you could click the New Automator to create your asset workflow. In this case, I'll set up a hardware asset recovery process for an offboarding request. Now, let's take an example of a laptop that has been returned by the user or a laptop that has been unassigned. In this case, you can set up a workflow that will automatically return the asset to your inventory. That is, it will be set back into stock. And you can also notify the asset owner when the hardware is returned back to stock. In this case, let me set up an event, that is, when the asset is updated. And if the use by is none, that is, if the user is unassigned or if the user has returned the laptop, the action is to set the status back to stock, your asset status, and then later on, send an email to the managed by, that is your asset owner, that the asset is back in stock. You could also insert placeholders to ensure that the asset owner knows exactly what asset is being added to your inventory back in stock. In this, I'm just giving in the asset name placeholder tag, and then adding that it's back in stock. Once that's done, you can click on Activate to ensure that this workflow is enabled in your system. And that's a wrap to asset automations. The next feature is something that some of us are already familiar with, that is the knowledge base, or the solutions tab, as you can call it. I have Niharika with me from the Freshservice product marketing team to talk about the knowledge base 2.0 and some of the key enhancements that we have released this quarter. Over to you, Niharika.
Hi all. Thanks, Mary, for the quick introduction about what I'll be talking today. So this is Niharika from the Freshservice marketing team. Before we get started, a huge shout out to all the IT teams out there. You're doing a lot of heavy lifting with the sudden shift to the remote work that we're all facing. So I can assume that you're seeing an unprecedented increase with the tickets that you have to handle in your service desk, especially the level 1 tickets, which are basic how-tos or how do I solve kind of issues. Is it possible to preempt them? Is it possible to prevent them to a certain extent? So you can do so by empowering your users with the right documentation. So this will help them have the information ready to solve their own issues. Be it your updated BCP plans, policies, or even basic documentation that your employees might need to set up applications for remote work, you can set them up end to end using the knowledge base. So we understood how critical the knowledge base module is to you and your business. So we have given our knowledge base a quick revamp with the version 2.0. So this version has almost a dozen enhancements. So without any delay, let's quickly move to the demo of this module. So to navigate yourself to the knowledge base module, click on the Solutions tab on the left bar. So like you can see here, we've given the knowledge base a complete reskinning. So to start with, if you want to navigate between categories and folders, all you have to do is click on a category, click on the folder within it, and all your articles get populated in the central view. So let's go a little in depth about this view. So like you can see, this is a table view for your solution articles. Every record has information about one particular solution article. One important aspect about setting up a knowledge base is to stay mindful about whether your documentation is actually helping out your users. So metrics like upvotes, downvotes, views can be viewed in this table view. You can also keep track of a useful metric here, which is inserted in tickets. So this helps you understand how many times a solution article was added to a ticket by your agents. So let's say you want to bulk select your solution articles and make some updates to it. You might want to move it across folders, change statuses, or change authors. You can do it right away. So there is a little hack that you might want to keep in mind. So you can see these little arrows here. So when you want to sort your articles based on any of these metrics, like let's say you want to see your articles in descending order of views, just hit one of these arrows and they'll sort them in either ascending or descending orders. Next, we have this Add New button on the top right corner. So from here, you can quickly create articles, folders, and categories. You can also see a fourth option here. So in your organization, I'm sure you use a lot of third-party applications and software. So when your users or when your employees face certain issues with respect to these third-party apps, they might hit your knowledge base with these queries. So to facilitate documentation for these applications, you can add articles from an external URL. Enter a title, enter a URL for this particular documentation, and then choose all the information that you need to add for this article. Once you hit save, this article will get indexed to your knowledge base in 24 hours. Just to quickly show you how this looks from the end user perspective. So you can see here under the software upgrade, we have an article called Microsoft Teams. So clicking on this article automatically takes me to the MS Teams documentation. So this will help employees find out answers to issues about third-party apps like MS Teams right from your knowledge base. Let me quickly go back to the Solutions tab. The next enhancement that I'm going to talk about was asked by a lot of customers, approvals in knowledge base. Why would we need approvals in knowledge base? So let's say I'm an agent and I'm drafting an article. I would want one of my team leads or my managers to give a sanity check to it. So these approvals just bring in some consistency with the kind of content which goes out as documentation for your employees. So now you can set up approvals for every folder in your knowledge base. Open the folder for which you want to add approvers. Hit this menu here, select Edit Folder, and you can see a checkbox called Assign Approvers. So now you can go on and add all your approvers here. So there are two radio buttons here. So you might want your article to be published only when all approvers that you have included here have approved articles. If so, go for the first option here. Or if you're okay with publishing articles, even if one of these approvers approve it, then you can go for the second option. So now, where do I keep track of all these approvals? So once you have set up approvals for every folder, when an agent has to publish an article in this folder, he has to send it for approval to these approvers. So in this approval tab, you can keep track of all the articles that are sent for approvals to you. Just click on the article and you can quickly survey the article And you can choose to do one of these three options. You can either choose to approve the article, or if you find this article good enough to go live, you can approve and publish it right away. And if you think it requires more edits, you can send it back for edits too. So now let's go back to the knowledge base. We have something called insights. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very important to understand how your knowledge base is impacting your employees. So if your articles need any improvement, they'll be listed here. So how are they listed here? An aggregated score is given to the articles based on the number of views they get or the number of upvotes and downvotes. So here the articles are listed based on which ones need the most improvement and which ones need the least improvement. You can go ahead and edit the article right from here, make changes and publish it right away. So now that we are inside a solution article, you can see that we now have a brand new editor. You can now include all information for your solution article from this right pane itself. On the bottom right, you can see we have tags and keywords. So keywords is something we have introduced very recently. You might ask, what is the difference between tags and keywords? Keywords are primarily used for search engine optimization. These are ideas or topics that define what your content is about, and they might be any words or phrases that your requesters are likely to use as search queries. But when it comes to tags, they are primarily used for grouping and categorizing articles along with tickets and requesters. Let me give you a better look at this. So this is the tag settings under the admin panel. So you can see for the particular tag mail storage, we have about 28 tickets and 3 articles. So tags are just used to facilitate search within the service desk. So now that's a wrap with all the enhancements I had about the knowledge base. So go ahead today and set up your knowledge base, for your employees are not sitting at the comfort of their offices. They cannot just turn around and ask their questions to their colleagues. Every issue becomes a problem to them and they're hitting support. So empower them with the right documentation so that they can solve their own issues. So now quickly moving to the next section of our webinar. We don't want to miss out on the little things we pushed out in the last quarter. So here is a quick roundup of all the rich enhancements and minor features which will be extremely useful for you. We have a couple of enhancements with the software asset management module, with the changes module, and even 2 enhancements with user management. So let's quickly move to the demo. So we have 3 enhancements that I will be walking you through about the software module. So navigate to CMDB, and here you can see the software option. So this is the software asset management module. Here you can keep track of all the software and all the applications that you have in your service desk. But sometimes certain applications cannot be tracked by our usual discovery methods, like maybe the probe or the agent. So to keep track of such software, we now have this new software button with which you can manually add software. So just go ahead, give the name for your software, add all the data that you need for your software and hit save to automatically add this particular software to the SAM module. So now let's quickly open a software. Most of the applications have a user-based licensing model. But if you want to manage the licenses and users, you might be currently toggling between multiple sheets. But gone are those days. Under the Users tab, you can now quickly maintain and manage all your users and licenses in one place. Hit Add User and select a user for whom you want to add a particular software license. Now, if you hit Select License, you can also see all the available licenses that you have for a particular software. This helps you keep track of the number of licenses you have left. Select the license, hit Add, and your users are automatically added here. So let's say an employee is leaving your organization. Your IT teams are definitely tasked with removing all the accesses for this particular employee. So this is also quite critical because if you don't remove these accesses right, it might cost your business. So now what you can do is, if an employee is leaving your organization, navigate yourself to either the requester profile or the agent profile. So move to requesters, select the profile for whom you want to remove the requester, and under the software tab, you can see the software which are accessed by this particular employee currently. So you can remove them right away from this profile. So if this is a new employee joining your organization, you can also assign software right from here. Now that's a wrap with the SAM enhancements. Let's quickly move to the changes module to see what we have there. So scheduling changes can be extremely tricky. So when you're trying to schedule a particular change on the same asset on which another change is also scheduled, it might result in a lot of confusion. So let's say I'm planning a change on Andrea's laptop on the 21st of April, let's say around 4 p.m. So I'm also giving it a planned end date. So when I'm hitting update, you can see that a conflict is detected. So our change collision detection helps you understand that there are other changes scheduled on your asset at the same time you're trying to schedule this current change. So this helps you to reschedule your changes and manage your changes accordingly. We also have a couple of enhancements with the change forms. Change managers find it extremely tricky to get the agents to accurately fill the change forms. And this is also because most of the change forms are too overwhelming for the agents to fill. Quickly navigate yourself to the form fields option under admin settings. In the change field panel, you can go ahead and edit these fields to see that we have introduced placeholder texts and help texts. So this helps ease out these forms for the agents and they can better understand the context of the fields they're filling out. Just to quickly remind you, under every change, we have a planning section. We have these default fields called reason for change, impact, rollout plan, etc. But what if you want to edit these section names according to the nomenclature in your organizations? You can do this under the change fields. Scroll down and you can see the planning sections here. Hit edit and give the name according to your need. If you want to add more planning sections, you can also do that by hitting add new field. We have two enhancements with respect to the user management module too. So like we discussed earlier, when an employee leaves an organization, there are multiple things to be done. But when an agent leaves an organization, it's extremely critical to dissociate them efficiently from a service desk. You wouldn't want to route tickets to an agent even after they leave your company. So what you can do is quickly navigate yourself to the agent profile under the admin settings. And in this menu, you can see the deactivate agent option. So what happens when you deactivate an agent? All the open, in progress, or pending tickets, or even other entities like changes and problems will automatically become unassigned. So this helps other agents to pick up these entities and finish the work. All resolved and closed entities will continue to remain assigned to these agents for the purpose of audit or reporting. But you don't have to worry. When you deactivate an agent, they will not be removed from your workflows. If you want to remove them, go ahead and manually remove them. We also have a quick little add-on to creating requester groups. So earlier, if you had to create a requester group, you had to create them by setting up rules based on which requesters are added to a group. But now we have bifurcated this. You can either choose to add members based on rules, or you can choose to add members manually. Hitting this can help you just add members by entering their name, give a name for the requester group, and you'll be good to go. We also have an enhancement with contracts. So when you set up a contract, there'll be a tenure associated with it. There'll be a start date and there'll be an end date. And most of the time you might have to remember it to renew it the next time. So let's say I'm setting up a contract for a year. So next year on the same day, I have to remember to renew this particular contract. But now I don't have to worry about that. We have auto renewals. So with auto renewals, you can automatically renew a contract for the same tenure you have set up earlier. So when you're renewing a contract, you might want to do some documentation. So you can also set to notify you about this renewal, set the number of days before which you want to notify someone, and also add the person to whom you want the notifications to be sent. So finally, we have an enhancement to the Sandbox account. So what is a Sandbox account? It is a virtual testing environment where you can try out all your configuration changes so that it doesn't affect your live production account. So here we have included two features. So once you go to the admin tab, you can see the apps option. So now you can set up integrations with all our marketplace apps and all our custom apps. You can even create apps using our developer portal. And like Mary was talking about asset workflows, these asset workflows are also now added to the Sandbox environment. So you can quickly create asset workflows here, test them out, and then sync them to the production account. Now that's a wrap with what I had to present. Now Ram is here to quickly walk you through about the resources we have put up for the COVID situation. Over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Niharika. Hi guys. We have actually put together a bunch of resources that your team would find it really handy during remote work. So I would actually ping the all these resources. Just give me a quick minute. Yeah, on your chat window. So in this resources section, we have collated a set of blogs to help you for planning BCP and effective tips for remote work. So we have a blog post on 25 actionable Freshservice tips that you can leverage to make the most out of Freshservice during remote work. We have covered examples of service catalog, like how to create a service item for self-isolation requests or VPN requests, or what are the most common items that your employees would request during this time of remote work. And also, you will find a webinar session presented by our CIO on how we at Freshworks prepared for BCP and the best practices to implement BCP. I hope you will find them helpful. Yeah, stay inside and stay safe. Let's now go to the questions part.
Okay, please use the Q&A section in Zoom to ask your questions, guys. So one of the questions was, can we also use Outlook instead of Google Calendar for Cab Huddle? That was one of the questions that was asked by Rob. And it was supported for Office 365 as well. Once you've installed the Office 365 app from the app section, you will be able to add the Cab meeting to the respective Office calendar. So Nilesh has asked a question, how many layers of folder can I now create in KBase 2.0? So the knowledge base is currently grouped into 3 levels, the category, folder, and the articles. And like Niharika said, the approval process is currently enabled at the folder level. So Scott has asked about the roadmap timing. It will be around the same time, 10 a.m. PT and 1 p.m. ET. So same time as this webinar, but it will happen on May 14th. Those who marked yes will receive an invite for the webinar. Thanks, Scott. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining. And see you soon with another exciting webinar. Until then, it's Freshservice Product Marketing Team signing off. Have a good day. Stay safe and stay indoors.